All right. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Really enjoying this. It's a very cool project, so I'm very impressed by your work. And your presentation especially was really great. You did a great job explaining what was going on with the technology and also covering what you were able to do from a project management perspective, which I know we all think of engineering as just this technical field, but really so much of it is the project management and how you actually get a project done. So very impressed by your video. But now I'm going to quiz you a little bit and see what you guys know in person. Um, I liked that part of your design aspect was that you got to research and pick your own sensor. But one thing I was curious about is how you made that decision. So what did your research come up with and what made you go with one sensor over the other?
Okay, so I will answer that question as the researcher. So we decided with the ultrasonic sensor because we believe that, in order for a sea glide to operate normally under the water, it's got to make sure that it doesn't run into any problems concerning with the environment. So we picked the ultrasonic sensor so that way we will get a feel for as to what the sea glide environment looks like all around it. And then when it comes back up to the water, so we can put a signal to it, then we can guide the sea glide in a way that it will actually avoid the obstacles that are in its way. And we can collect data from the environment at the same time as to what's going on around it.
Great. Hey, what were the other options?
Okay, so the other options would be a temperature sensor in which it gets a reading of the temperature of the water around the sea glide. And the other one was more like a sound sensor. So it was more like just it was just like exerting sound and such. So it was like a
Okay.
speakers and such on.
Awesome. And I think you said you're still constructing yours correctly? Correct? Sorry.
All right, so I have the actual kit with me, and Shayla can explain the building kit while I actually show it right here, in a sense.
Okay, so we he has the circuit board on top. So yeah, he has the circuit board on top so that it could send signals to the engine at the top of it. Move it a little bit at the top. Yeah, so it could send a signal to it, and the the signals are so that the engine run, so that we could be able to, so the lights could flash and we could tell like when it's running green, go, yellow, slow, and then the red light, it'll stop. And so move it, move it. Then it has weights on it. It has weights. Did you put the weights on it?
Let me get
The
the
weights, the weights on it. It helps.
here.
It's very sensitive to the weights because yeah, the weights, it helps it move. It kind of is very sensitive to the weights. It helps it move in the water. Um, and the wings, when with the weights and the wings, it ooh, it goes. It determines which way the um the glide goes, and the bottle protects the inside of the glide with all the circuits and stuff in it.
Yeah. Oh, great. Have you gotten to do any testing on it or on any aspect of it? I know you struggled a little bit with making sure it was a watertight seal. What has the testing and iteration process been like?
Um, the testing process was very interesting and fun. Um, because you realize how sensitive, like you realize how sensitive it is to put something together. Like if the weights are off, you'll notice. If something's wrong in the circuit board, you'll notice. But once you fix it, you could it's fun.
Got it. Awesome. I guess what's one thing each of you kind of learned from this project that you're going to take with you moving forward into college and or your careers?
I would take away that patience is key, and also problem solving. Don't you wouldn't give up. If you mess up something, it's always a way to fix it, or it's always another way to go around the problem.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. That's huge in engineering, but that's also a really great life skill to take away. So,
As for me, what I will take away from this is that it really is important to coordinate with your team, and being able to work together as a team that will allow like a lot of things to get done. Like one person, like Demaya Bud, she has the project management role, so she was the one that helped keep us in schedule. And then since I was the researcher, I did all the research of information concerning what ultrasonic sensors we could use and the data that it has on it. And then Deshayla was the one that finished building it, because Demaya Bud was the original project construction, but then Deshayla was able to finish it since we switched roles. And then Maurice was the documenter, which means that he kept all of our notes intact. So by combining all of these roles together and mixing it into creating this product like the Sea Glide, like what you see here and with here, then we were able to make a completed Sea Glide with as best of our ability that we could. And I do have a video showing, well, even though it's in my bathtub and it's not that deep, but at least it actually shows how the Sea Glide works a little bit in terms of function. So I'll show a little bit of
there's
how
the
this.
light.
All right, so as you can see, what Deshayla said, of the green mean that it's going on, it's in the process of moving, and then that blue light or yellow light that it comes up, then that means that it's pushing the water out, or it's getting the water in. So as you can see, I'm rearranging it to make sure that it can move at least a little bit while in this.
So what happens as it's pushing that water out and in?
Okay, so as it's pushing the water out, like when it pushes the water out, the buoyancy engine will allow it to move a little bit upwards since it's shifting its weight, because the main movement that the Sea Glide can make is shifting its weight, so that way it could go up and down. That's what the Sea Glide can only do. Yep. So by shifting its weight, it will allow it to actually move in the water. So that was a little demonstration of how the Sea Glide actually functions.
My biggest takeaway from the whole project was that, mistakes and unexpected errors are actually not a bad thing. Like, they're a good thing. Like, they teach you like how to problem solve quickly, how to be quick on your feet, how to think. Like, they make you see that like everything happens for a reason. And the more mistakes you have, the more you learn about how to fix stuff. And the more knowledge you have of fixing things, the easier it is to problem solve. And that's what an engineer does, problem solve.
Yeah. Having been on job sites, things happen. It always is going to happen. And so it's just kind of how can you move forward when we've already poured the concrete and, didn't put in the rebar. And so, okay, how can we make sure that this building's still not going to fall down? So, you find a way. So that's an important skill to take away. Maurice, anything from you to add? All right, maybe your mic's not working or something, but feel free to add it in the chat if you'd like. Otherwise, we'll just move on and hopefully you can get that working. Awesome. I'm just looking through if I had any other questions for you guys. You really did a great job covering everything on. Did you guys get the rubric ahead of time to know what was going to be asked? Because you did a great job covering what was on it. Yeah, so I guess at that point, I'll just leave it up for you guys are welcome to ask me any questions. I am trained as a civil and environmental engineer. And so I'm happy to answer anything about what that's like, but otherwise, those are all my questions.
All right, so what is your daily duties as a civil engineer?
Yeah, so when I was more on the civil side of things, I was in charge of doing a lot of like technical reports. So like I mentioned, I was working on a job site, but more on the engineering side of things. And so we would oversee kind of the construction going on. We would oversee the things that had technical aspects to them. So the design of the building and making sure that that was being carried out correctly, making sure that the concrete was meeting the right specifications. I don't think anybody thinks about it, but there's a lot of different ways to mix up concrete. And so making sure that that was all working right. And then we'd go back and make sure that the design was okay. And like I mentioned, when things went wrong, we had to go do analysis to make sure that, you know, what went wrong was still going to be okay for the building. And so it's just kind of a lot of back and forth. It was never really the same day. I was in a kind of unique department because we were just doing that special project, but I was on a nuclear power plant site doing that. But yeah, so it was really interesting. And being on a nuclear site was also really interesting. I'm not a nuclear engineer, but I got to learn a lot about nuclear engineering. So you never know what's going to come across your path. So don't be afraid to take new challenges.
I had a question. What project have you been on that you think, well, like, what project have you done that you think benefited most of society as a civil engineer?
That's hard. So I have done a lot of work in the developing world, and so that's been really rewarding. We worked with an organization in Uganda to help improve the access people there had to clean water and to sanitation facilities. And so we did a lot of their testing and that side of things, but then the on the ground NGO, non-governmental organization, it's like a nonprofit, is actually carrying out the work based on the testing that we did of their like water and sanitation. So like what's contaminated and what's not. So hopefully that's having a good impact. You know, some people over there really need it. So
That sounds great.
yeah, it was a cool project. All right, I have one more group I do have to get to, but it was great hearing from all of you, and good luck with college or your careers. And you know, hopefully maybe one day we'll cross paths again. So, all right, bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
You too.